everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, and I have something exciting to show you today. Today I have a Cameo 4. We've been waiting for this since it was announced at the May Silhouette Summit this year, and I'm going to open it and unbox it and do my first cut for you right here on the video. So let's take a look at what's inside the box and how to set it up. UPS dropped this off yesterday and it was hard to stay out of until I was set up to shoot the video. And I received several messages asking if I had it open yet. So you're going to see that it is boxed up. Here is the box. Lots of pretty colors and project ideas that you can do. First thing in the package is information on how to set it up. That's what I would recommend you start with, especially if you're a new Cameo owner. You have your cutting mat. I'll give you some tips on using that here in just a second. There's a box. You open it up and you have your power cord and your USB cord. Then you have another bag with this is just the power cord. Your USB cord is in this bag. You have a smaller bag that has your new auto blade with the tool recognition on it. This fits in the Cameo 4 only. This auto blade is specific to this machine. And then you also have 4 adapters that will house and hold other tools. And you have the Silhouette wrench that comes with it to help you take the white cap off of your blade and also adjust a blade, or you have a little Bluetooth wrench right here. But the thing I use this for the most, and it looks like this one is specific to the Cameo 4 auto blade. It has some very specific dimensions, and the wrench fits on there exactly. So there's 2 little notches on the white cap. This is different than the Cameo 3. So you're going to want to keep this in a safe place. You also have some information in the bag about how to register your Silhouette machine. When you register your Silhouette machine, that will be when you get your free credit. If you have a $25 credit or design store subscription along with your Cameo, that's where it'll come up when you register, and you want to register that. That's for the warranty. And then you have some other paperwork that comes with your Cameo as well. Now, comes the fun of unwrapping the package. It's covered very well in a protective covering, so it's not damaged in shipping. Nice, pretty white. And you can see that it is taped in many places. So the first thing you want to start by doing is you want to inspect your machine carefully, and you want to remove any of the tape that is on it or any of the packing materials. The machine does have some packing materials inside that can be hard to see, so you want to make sure that you get everything. Otherwise, you may have some cutting issues down the road. So I'm removing the blue tape, but there's also protective covering that comes off after you remove the blue tape of the sides on your, this is your new backlit touchscreen. Then you lift up, the lid is retractable, nice sleek design, and you're going to find more packing tape. You'll find some packing materials in there. You want to double check that there's no other materials back in there. Carefully move the blade housing. You can remove the tape on the tool holders. And then there's a piece that's back in here in the corner that I do know that several people have missed when they've unpacked it. So you just want to double check, and it'll be much easier for you looking at it straight on. So I'm just going to double check, and I see that there's a little piece of foam that fell out in there. So I'm just going to double check inside the machine, make sure there's no additional packing materials. On the back side of the machine is a built-in cross cutter feature. So if you're cutting vinyl and you would have the vinyl feed out the back side, there's now a built-in cross cutter here. So your vinyl would come out the back here, and the cross cutter will come across. That's how you can replace it. This whole piece can be replaced. Your cross-cutting tool is right here. Let's stick that back in there and see if we can get this to go. Push this down and slide it across to cut off your vinyl off the roll. And then it locks back in place. You want to make sure if you're using that after you have used it, that you're locking the cross cutter back into place so that your vinyl doesn't have any problems feeding back through later. So we will go ahead and get this set up. Retractable lid, backlit panel. You have a tool 1 housing, which is the same housing and same motor as on a Cameo 3. So it will house your auto blade, your sketch pens, your ratchet blade, and the tools with your adapters and housing. The adapters also have the tool recognition on the back, so that is how they fit in to the machine. They will fit into the tool housing. You're going to pull the locking tab out. You're going to insert your blade or your adapter with your other tool. You're going to push down on the tool, lift up a little bit on the front of the housing, and then push it in to lock it. It has 2 little gripping handles on the front of the blade to lock it securely into place. So this is a lot more secure than on the Cameo 3 where everybody would get a gap, and I always asked if you check your blade or show me your photo. This one shouldn't give you as much problems, but you still want to make sure to have it installed properly. I have seen people who have not had it installed properly already, even on a new machine. So you're going to pull out that locking tab, blade goes in, the tool recognition is on the back, and it recognizes it right here along this panel. Push down on the blade, lift up on the front of the housing. I can hear that click in there, and then you're going to push in on the front of the blade, and that's how you lock it into place. Same thing with tool 2. You pull out on the front of it and it unlocks the tool. You would slide the tool into the tool housing, hold pressure down on it, and push the locking tab back in. Tool 2 is a different motor than on the Cameo 3. Tool 2 is a motor that has more force and will be using tools such as the craft blade and the rotary blade and also the punch tool when they become available. These tools are specific to Tool 2 because of this greater force motor. We also have a built-in roll feeder on the drawer in the front. And we'll figure out how to get this baby slid out. There you go. Your vinyl rolls slide in here and are gripped by this edge here. The vinyl goes through here and into your machine. This does slide back and forth, so you want to make sure to lock it into place. You want, for best results, you want to have your vinyl loose rolled on a roll. You want to make sure to be careful if you are not using a roll, and you want to watch that your roll does not come out of the edges of this roll feeder. Just some tips that I've picked up watching people use their roll feeders. Okay, so now we are set up. I'm going to send this design to be cut. It is a design that I have picked from my Silhouette library. I click on this little button here. That will give you the information. This is from the Smudge Factory LLC 290247 is the design number. I'm going to go back to my design tab. I've set it up for the size that I want. So another tip that I do when I am to extend the life of my cutting mat is I always cut my materials down. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can use your rulers, which are here, and I know that my design is under 10 inches. So I cut off that last 2 inches, and then I don't stick anything over here on this side of the mat, and that adhesive is saved. It's not being used when I'm making this design. What you'll notice on the V4.3 software is that there is a new page setup panel. And this is where you can choose your machine and your page size and your cutting mat all in the first place again. So we can now design for, say, the curio and with a curio mat without having to go to the Send tab and choose our machine first. So you can choose your machine here. I'm going to choose Cameo. I'm going to choose Cameo 12 by 12. Your reveal, which is how I usually decide what size my design is. Here is another way. I use the grid arrows, the grid lines on my mat to show me this is 10 inches right here. I can cut my material down to 10 inches and place it on the left-hand side of my mat, and that is saving the adhesive on the side I'm not using. So I'm not ripping a piece of vinyl or cardstock off of the mat where I'm not cutting at. The next thing you'll see is number 3 is media size. So you can set your media size. I'm going to change my reveal back down so you can see this change. I can make it a custom. I can choose 12 by 12, which is usually what I design in anyhow, but it's completely up to you and your personal preference. So if I were to choose custom, I can then go change the size I want. So I know the width of my design is 10 inches and it's going to be 12 inches long. So now I can see that my design is going to fit in the size vinyl that I have cut of 10 inches by 12 inches. For this sake, I'm just going to change it back to a 12 by 12. Next, my design is ready to go. I'm going to click on the Send tab in the top right corner. You're going to see in version 4.3 that this is a little bit different. We have a little bit more space here, and it's a little bit organized a little different because the Cameo 4 has new options. So what you're going to see down here is the last machine that I had available because I have the business edition. The last machine I plugged into and was chosen was my pink Cameo. It's unavailable. You're going to click on the little machine icon in the bottom of the send screen, and you can see that I have 4 different machines, 4 devices found. I have my pink Cameo, I have a Curio, I have another Cameo, I have the Cameo that is connected by the USB cord, which is the one we are using right now. And I also have this little icon here, means that it is a Bluetooth connection. Currently, the Bluetooth is turned off. I have Bluetooth turned off, so that is unavailable. You're going to choose the Cameo that says available. When you do, it's now going to give you a message that says firmware update available, and you want to click on update now. It tells me to do not switch off the Cameo. This should be faster than on the older machines where you had to update the firmware. It will depend on your internet connection. So we're just going to wait for that firmware to be updated. Okay, so it just took a couple minutes, less than 5 minutes for the firmware to update, and then the Cameo housing reset, and it's ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my material to vinyl, glossy. You're going to notice that the action is auto cut. You can choose cut, auto blade. Auto blade is what I have in it. Blade depth of a 1, speed 5, force 10. What you'll notice here now is that it is faster in that you can change the speed now up to a 30 for vinyl. I don't think I want to cut it at 30. I can hit revert and it'll take it back down to where it was. But we can test this out. Let's test it out at about 15. Again, this is the first cut that I've made on the Cameo 4. So when we go to hit send, we are just going to make sure that we cross our fingers. If you are cutting without a mat, you can move the roller lock. It is much easier on the Cameo 4 to move the roller lock than it was on the 3. You're going to flip down the roller bar lever to the unlocked position. The bar will now move. You're going to pinch this with your one hand finger, and you can slide it to the grooves on the roller bar. You're going to feel that settle down into the grooves, and then you can let go of the pinch with your finger. When you are cutting without a mat, you want the roller lock on the farthest groove to the right so that it grips the edges of your mat. If you're cutting a 12-inch roll of vinyl without a mat, you can move it to the next groove in. You just want to make sure that your rollers are gripping the vinyl securely. So I'm going to be cutting with a mat. I'm going to load the mat next to the line with the arrows pointing at it. You're going to see that the roller is on each side of this Silhouette mat. And I'm going to hit the load button, which is your up arrow. I'm going to do that one more time because from this angle, it really spits that mat out too. So I'm going to line up. It's a little more difficult from the back side of your machine. Line up the arrow, the line in the arrow, and I'm going to hit the load button, and it's going to pull that into the machine, and it's going to orientate the blade in the proper location. So now we are ready to go. We're going to see how fast this goes. I bumped the speed up to a 15, so we're going to cross our fingers. I always recommend that you do a test cut first, especially when you're starting with a new material, or in this case, a new machine. So we're going to click on, we have tool housing 1 is selected here, and we have our little test cut button on the right hand side. We're going to choose that. It's going to set the blade depth, and then it's going to cut. We're going to hit the unload button here, spits it out. It's going to cut a little square and a little triangle out of the top right corner, and it looks like we had a pretty good cut. You can peel both of those off. And that is so you know that it cuts corners well. A test cut will save you a lot of wasted material. So I'm just going to hold the mat up there again, hit the load button. It's going to load it back into the machine.
And then we're going to hit, I'm going to cross my fingers and I'm going to hit the send button.
It's going to adjust the blade. One tap adjust. I'd say it was a bit faster than my Cameo 3 would have done. It's an interesting sound, that's for sure. My guess, and since I've only had this machine and just opened the box, there is, so you know, there is a new system underneath that runs underneath the blade housing. There's a small cutting strip, the same as what you have on a Cameo 3, 2, or 1, and which is a thin rubber piece of material that the blade pushes up against. There's also now a little small channel that runs along the bottom underneath the blade housing, and that is what is used when you are doing matless cutting for cardstock. So that's a whole other topic right there. It's pretty neat, and we'll cover that at another time. After my cut, this cut pretty good. It didn't lift up the corners even though I increased the speed by 10. So I'm going to take my mat, I'm going to lay it down on top of my blue protective cover so nothing gets on my mat. And then I'm going to take the mat and I'm going to carefully peel the mat away from the material. If I hold my material down when I'm doing this, it doesn't allow the material to roll. My material will stay flatter. The adhesive releases the material off the mat easier, and my adhesive stays down on the mat. So then I'm going to take my blue protective cover and I'm going to cover my mat back up. So now I'm going to take, and we'll see how this cut. And you want to be very careful with Oracal 651, which is what I'm cutting. Weeding lines probably would have been a good idea. I always forget the weeding lines until I am ready to weed. You just want to go slow and try not to have that vinyl fall back down on itself, as I have gotten. Again, it's always harder to weed when you're on camera or when you're teaching a lesson. You want to go fast, but not too fast. So, just making sure that that vinyl stays down. And once you get that off, weed out the little bits. And there you go. First cuts on a Cameo 4 right out of the box. Again, test cut's going to be your best friend to save you wasted materials, and the presets in the program are a suggestion, so you want to make sure that your material cuts with your settings. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please let me know. Find me on www.silhouette-secrets.com or Silhouette Secrets with Ellie Mae on Facebook. Have a great day. Thank you.